You're listening to a New York Yankees episode of the Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the team's latest goings-on as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, Yankees fans! Welcome to my 2021 New York Yankees offseason preview here on the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, and you're not. In my off-season previews, I like to do season recaps, and I feel like I only need to say one word in order to properly recap the Yankees season. Streaky. That's it. That's how you sum up this Yankees season. They were just incredibly streaky. Up and down and up and down and up and down. Then way up, then way down. There was never any consistency with this team. It happened last year too. You thought last year the streakiness was an aberration because of the 60-game farce. No. That's what this team is. It's a streaky team. It's a team with players that, when they're hot, are unstoppable, but when they're cold, they look like little leaguers. You know the T-Mobile commercial where Giancarlo Stanton hits a big home run off a little leaguer? It's one of the best commercials ever. When the Yankees are cold, that little leaguer would have 15 strikeouts. To boil the loss to the Red Sox down to the ground, the reason that they lost was because they just got cold at the wrong time. The 6 through 9 hitters only had one hit. It was by Gio Urshela. That was it. I mean, the Yankees had 6 hits in that whole game. Half of them came from one person, Giancarlo Stanton. You're not going to win too many games when one player is responsible for half your hits. Like, I heard a lot of people say that the Yankees peaked at the wrong time. The 13-game winning streak was too early. They're right, but the thing is, that doesn't tell me anything. Like, it's a correct statement in hindsight, but it's not like you can pick and choose when you're going to go on your winning streak, if you're going to go on a big winning streak. I think if the St. Louis Cardinals had their druthers, their 17-game win streak would have included Wednesday. It's not like every team is guaranteed a big win streak, and they get the option of whether to have it in September or October. Come on, that's ridiculous. Also, what's important to note is that 13-game win streak got them back in the playoff hunt. That win streak started on August 14th. The day before that, the Yankees were 2.5 games behind the Red Sox for the second wildcard spot. They had just lost the Field of Dreams game. It really didn't look like they were going to make the playoffs. Then the Yankees go on the big win streak, and that vaults them into playoff contention. Up to and including all games played on August 27th, which was the last game of the 13-game win streak, the Yankees were 3 games up on the Red Sox for the first wildcard spot. They were only 4 games behind the Rays. You want to tell me the win streak was a bad thing? No. Would I have preferred it if the Yankees had gotten hot later? Of course. I mean, they followed up the 13-game winning streak by losing 12 of their next 15. It doesn't get much worse than that in following up a big win streak. But that just plays into my point. This team was incredibly streaky. You saw that graphic that the Yes Network showed all throughout the year. The Yankees had a big win streak, then they had a big losing streak. Then they had a big win streak, then they had a big losing streak. And it went on and on and on. And realistically, they closed out the season losing 4 of their last 6 games, if you want to count the wild card game. That's what happened. This is a streaky team. It was a streaky team last year. To give a very simplistic explanation, rather than going on a 2-hour diatribe, which I could do very easily, the reason that the Yankees lost were because they got cold at the wrong time. Now, who's to blame for that? Is there anyone to blame? Or is it just one of those things where, in the immortal words of John Sterling, that's baseball, Susan? No, there is someone to blame. In fact, there are 2 people to blame. Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman. You may think I'm piling on. Any criticism that they get, they deserve. These guys are inept. These guys, I don't want to say they've run the Yankees into the ground because the Yankees won 92 games this year. But if you lose that last game of the season to a sizable percentage of Yankees fans, that makes the season a failure. And you know what? You can include me in that group. I mean, I didn't count 2019 as a failure. The Yankees lost in the ALCS. But when you've gone 3 out of the last 4 years in not even making it to the ALCS, that's an issue. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I said last year that the Yankees wouldn't win anything with Aaron Boone as their manager. Your Honor, let me present to you Exhibit A. The 163 games that the Yankees played in this year. I'll go back to something that I said last year. The best managers make their teams overachieve. Why do we consider Kevin Cash such a great manager? Because the Tampa Bay Rays won 100 games this year, despite the fact that their payroll only amounts to $59.8 million, according to Baseball Reference. Why do we consider Gabe Kapler such a great manager? Because the San Francisco Giants were picked to finish in the doldrums of the NL West. They finished with the best record in baseball. Why did Jace Tingler get fired? Because the San Diego Padres finished 2 games under 500, even though A.J. Preller went out and brought in basically every single player that was ever on the trade block. It's been 3 out of the last 4 years that the Yankees haven't made it out of the freaking ALDS. This year, they lost in the wild card game. Something that they haven't done since 2015. How's this for a stat? The Yankees never spent a day in first place. Literally. Never were they in first place. The last time that happened was 2016. You can't look at this roster and tell me that the best it can do is an ALDS appearance or an ALCS appearance. At this point, I'll settle for just a pennant, because it's been 12 freaking years since I've seen even that. Don't you realize that that's an eternity in the Bronx? This is the longest pennant drought the Yankees have had since 1981 to 1996. This is the longest World Series drought that the Yankees have had since 1978 to 1996. This is a team with some of the best players in baseball on it. Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and Garrett Cole. And all they can do is be eliminated in the wild card game. They lose 6-2. They don't even get home field advantage. They don't even clinch until the last day of the season. That's the best this team can do. Aaron Boone, 100 years from now, will be mentioned in the same breath as guys like Johnny Keane, Stump Merrill, and Bucky Dent. Really, 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 really bad Yankees managers. This hire was destined to fail. Joe Girardi never should have been disposed of. You want to tell me a rift had formed between him and Cashman, or a rift had formed between him and the players? They won 91 games. They were one game away from winning the pennant. Girardi was doing something right. That year that cost Joe Girardi his job was better than any year that Aaron Boone has had as manager. The closest he's gotten into a World Series is the 6th game of the ALCS. I'd rather have 3 wins than 2. The simple fact is, Aaron Boone just isn't putting this team in a good position to succeed. He's not getting them over the hump. He's not overachieving with them. Yes, 3 90-win seasons to start off his managerial career. Yes, 4 straight playoff seasons. Aaron Boone will be picked up in short order. But he's just not the right manager for the Yankees. If Joe Girardi had run his course, and the message got stale, then Boone's message has to be infested with maggots by now. Forget stale. It's way past stale at this point. Maybe the players still like him. Great. Fantastic. But if I'm to believe that the Yankees didn't really get along with Girardi by the end of his time here, that's a trade-off I'm willing to make. 2 of the most dysfunctional years in Yankees history were 1977 and 1978. 77, you have Jackson making the "I'm the straw that stirs the drink" comment. You've got Jackson being pulled midway through a nationally televised game against the Red Sox. Paul Blair goes out to right field and says to Reggie, "I'm out to replace you." Jackson and Billy Martin come to blows in the visiting dugout at Fenway. 78, you've got the Yankees firing Billy Martin. He gets replaced by Dick Hauser and eventually Bob Lemon. Martin says of Reggie Jackson and George Steinbrenner, one's a born liar, the other's convicted. I mean, there's a reason that the Bronx Zoo became a Yankees nickname back then. There's a reason that the Bronx is Burning was made by ESPN. What happened those 2 years, 77 and 78? The Yankees beat the Dodgers in 6 games to win the World Series. So what would you rather have? A kumbaya environment where everyone gets along, but you never win a pennant? Or would you rather have an environment where maybe there's a little discontent, but you win? You come within 1 game of a pennant. In some cases, you win the whole thing. I'd rather have a little discontent. I mean, yeah, in a perfect world, everyone gets along with everyone, but that's just not realistic. Not for nothing, but if there's not a little fear of the manager, what are we doing? When a guy like Stanton or Gallo or Rizzo or Torres or LeMahieu, etc., gets in a slump, a fiery manager can say, "Hey, if you don't get out of this slump, we're benching you. We're going to make some serious changes." A player's manager, you just get a pat on the back. "It's okay, keep trying. You'll get better." Sometimes there's a place for that, but sometimes there's a place for the other approach. Managers nowadays, and this applies to all sports, managers and head coaches nowadays fall into one of 2 camps. The hard ass and the player's coach. It's very rare that you find a happy medium. There are some players that, no matter what, you just can't go after. They will take it badly. They need to be treated with kid gloves. And there are other players where sometimes they need a kick in the ass to get going. It's your job as the manager to know which players are which. The one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work. Not for nothing, but if that's the only arrow in your quiver, and you still haven't accomplished what you want to accomplish, you're screwed. It's clear that whatever Boone did didn't work. For goodness sake, the Yankees didn't have a player this year hit .290. Forget 300, .290. They only had 2 players over .270. Judge hit .287, Stanton hit .273. The notion that on-base percentage is more important than batting average is just nonsense. It's utter nonsense. I'm not saying that on-base percentage isn't important, but batting average is more important. If you give me the choice between a hit or a walk, I'm taking a hit. The Yankees don't seem to feel that way. If the leadership of the Yankees doesn't understand that fundamental tenet of baseball, they're not even fit to run a Little League team. And you know what? There's nobody that embodies that principle more than Brian Cashman. I respect what Brian Cashman did with the Yankees. There is no question that 20 years from now, Brian Cashman will have a plaque in Monument Park. In fact, I'd even go a step further. I think that Brian Cashman is a future Baseball Hall of Famer. You look at the total body of work that screams Hall of Famer. The guy was around for 5 World Series winners. The Yankees made the playoffs almost every year with him as GM. If that doesn't get you in the Hall of Fame, I don't know what does. But while Cashman may have had some magic earlier in his career, he's exhausted it all. It's clear that he just doesn't know how to build a baseball team that's capable of winning a World Series. While Cashman does have rings for the 96, 98, 99, and 2000 teams, let's be fair. 96, he wasn't even GM. He was an assistant GM. Bob Watson was the GM. 98, 99, and 2000, you think of the big guys on those teams, they were all brought in by either Bob Watson or, in the case of Paul O'Neill, Gene Michael. Bernie Williams, too, was Gene Michael. I mean, look, Cashman made the trade for Clemens. I get that. But the bulk of the core wasn't brought in by Cashman. It just wasn't. Fast forward to 2009. Were there still some holdovers that Cashman didn't bring in? Yeah, the core 4. But the bulk of that team was brought in by Cashman. You've got Teixeira, Cano, A-Rod, Damon, Cabrera, Swisher, Matsui, Sabathia, Burnett, Phil Hughes. The core of that team was Cashman. That's it. That's literally it. You can't take the rings away from him. That's why you put him into Monument Park. That's why you put him into Cooperstown. But let's be fair. He really only put together one World Series winning team. After that, it's been loss after loss after loss. Have there been some good moments? Yes. Cashman gets a ton of credit for building the Baby Bombers core. I believe that this core is capable of winning a World Series. It just needs to be supplemented properly. That Cashman hasn't done. Think about the big moves that Cashman has made since the Yankees lost Game 7 of the 17 ALCS. Which big move worked, besides trading for Stanton? Hiring Boone didn't work. Trading for Brandon Drury didn't work. Trading for J. Happ didn't work. Trading for Lance Lynn didn't work. Trading for James Paxton didn't work. Signing Adam Ottavino didn't work. Garrett Cole is still up in the air. We all love Cole, but you just saw what he did on Tuesday. And not for nothing, but if he doesn't win anything with the Yankees, that signing didn't work. You can't give it a grade right now. You have to give it an incomplete. But trading for Taillon really didn't work. He wasn't what you hoped he'd be. Not terrible, but not great. The Yankees wanted him to be better than he was. Corey Kluber didn't work. He only pitched in 16 games. Darren O'Day didn't work. He got hurt. Justin Wilson didn't work. You had to get rid of Luis Cessa to make it so the Reds would want to take on his contract. Training for Rougned Odor didn't work. The guy only hit .202 with the Yankees. He had a .286 on base percentage. Trading for Joey Gallo definitely didn't work. Trading for Rizzo really didn't work. Trading for Heaney is one of the all-time disasters in Yankees history. This guy had a core put together that everyone thought would win a World Series in 3 to 5 years. Oh, come on. A team with Sanchez, Starlin Castro, Didi Gregorius, Aaron Judge, Greg Bird, Clint Fraser, Luis Severino, Jordan Montgomery, and Miguel Andujar and Gleyber Torres waiting in the wings. That team's winning multiple World Series, right? Didn't even make one. Sanchez is going to be off the team. The Yankees traded Starlin Castro. He was part of the Giancarlo Stanton trade, so okay, totally get it. But you let Didi Gregorius walk in free agency. Greg Bird turned into nothing. Miguel Andujar's useless. Clint Fraser's useless. I have no idea what I'm going to get from Severino. I have no idea what I'm going to get from Torres. Fine, you hit on Judge, you hit on Montgomery. Fantastic. Not enough. It's time for a change. No one is saying that Brian Cashman is a terrible GM. He's not. I mean, I've got to be fair. The Wandy Peralta and Clay Holmes trades look really, really good. Signing Lucas Litke was an incredible job by Cashman. I've got to be fair. But the reality is, his time is up with the Yankees. He's been Yankees GM for 23 seasons. Only 2 men lasted as long or longer than that. George Weiss lasted 23 seasons from 47 to 60, and Ed Barrow lasted 25 seasons from 1920 to 1945. The reality is, it's just time for a change. If Cashman wants, he can get another GM job very easily. If he wants a job in the commissioner's office, he could get one very easily. But it's just time for a change. He's not getting it. He made some really stupid moves at the deadline. I don't think he knows how to properly assemble a team. It's done. The Yankees need to clean house. 12 years since the last World Series appearance. Fire everyone. As for who should replace them, I have the answer. GM, I think we can all agree, if Theo Epstein wants to come to the Yankees, you've got to make it happen. Here's a guy who was actually born in New York City, is an incredibly smart guy, ended the curse of the Bambino, ended the curse of the Billy Goat. He knows how to blend analytics and sabermetrics with a big payroll. He knows how to win in huge markets. He's really the perfect choice. If he doesn't want to be a GM again, I wouldn't be stunned. It seems like that's a life that he's willing to leave behind. I mean, it's a very high-stress job. There's no question about it. Every move you make is second-guessed. You're always looking over your shoulder. I mean, it's very easy to picture a world where Epstein says to all interested teams, thanks for your consideration, but I'm happy doing what I'm doing with Major League Baseball. I mean, he already turned down the Mets. We don't know why, but he's already turned down one team. Would it surprise you if he turned down another? It wouldn't surprise me. So you've got to have a backup plan. It wouldn't stun me if the Yankees stuck in-house and they promoted Jean Afterman to GM, making her only the second female GM in the history of the 4 major North American sports. I don't think that's an impossibility. But I don't know if I want Cashman's right-hand woman running the show if the Cashman approach only got me 1 World Series by himself. I think you interview Afterman. I think you give her serious consideration, but she would be my 3rd choice. My 2nd choice is off the wall. Okay? I understand the risks that come with this move. I just saw Aaron Boone fail as Yankees manager after coming to the Yankees with no coaching experience. Do I want to take that risk again? The answer is yes. I read this guy's book. It's called State of Play, The Old School Guide to New School Baseball. I interviewed him about it. I think it's one of the best interviews in the history of this show. I mean, when the Yankees have tried a new school approach, it hasn't worked. The new school thinking got them Gallo. The new school thinking got them Rizzo. It got them guys who were either going to strike out, hit a home run, or walk. The 3 true outcomes. As if there's no value in a single, double, or triple. There's no value in a bunt. There's no value in anything else. It's just walk, home run, or strikeout. I think the Yankees could use an injection of old school baseball. Someone who, in his book, outlined a very cogent way of putting together a baseball team. Someone who's incredibly smart. He does a good job on the MLB Network. If you haven't guessed by now, it's Bill Ripken. Again, I understand the risk of bringing in someone as general manager despite not having any front office experience. Totally get the risk. But read the guy's book. Talk baseball with him. Hear him speak. His theory on how to build a team just makes a ton of sense. He believes that hits matter. He likes fielding percentage. He believes that great hitters shouldn't keyhole on one particular part of the strike zone and foul everything else off. He's just a really, really smart guy. I get the risk. I understand. We just saw Boone fail with no experience. Could Ripken go down the same path? I really don't think so. Bill Ripken would get the job because of his baseball mind. Aaron Boone got the job because he was willing to be Brian Cashman's puppet, and he's a great communicator with the players. That has nothing to do with baseball acumen. Bill Ripken has a high baseball acumen. He's my second choice for Yankees GM. It goes Epstein, Ripken, Afterman. As for manager, there are a couple guys I have in mind. It's a very short list. The reason being is I think the Yankees should go with an experienced manager. If I go back and look at some of the guys who were considered for managerial jobs last cycle, it's a really bad list. It's full of guys who come from bad teams. They're former players. They seem like more new school hires, good communicator types. I'm getting rid of one of those guys in Boone. I don't want to go down that road again. There are a couple guys who I wouldn't mind. George Lombard was supposedly under consideration from the Red Sox before they hired Alex Cora. He had a lot of success with the Dodgers, and the Tigers took a step in the right direction last year. I think Lombard could make sense. I think Mark Kotsay could make sense. He spent a lot of time with the Athletics, and look, I'm not crazy about how the Athletics do things, but there's no denying the fact that usually they're in the hunt. They never make a ton of noise, but they're in the hunt. I wouldn't be upset with Lombard. I wouldn't be upset with Mark Kotsay. Those guys are 3 and 4, though. My first choice is the guy who I literally banged my fist on the table for when the Yankees got rid of Joe Girardi. I don't understand how this guy doesn't have a managerial job. My A1 choice is John Farrell. Farrell's first year with the Red Sox in 2013, he won a World Series. He's a World Series winning manager. How many times can you hire a World Series winning manager? That's an opportunity that you jump on whenever you can. He also became the first manager in Red Sox history in 2017 to win back-to-back division titles. This guy was a well-respected pitching coach, did a very good job with the Red Sox. The only reason he lost his job was because the Astros beat them in the 17 ALDS. Obviously, a little bit of an asterisk there, sign stealing. I mean, I think John Farrell would be a really good manager for the Yankees. You want to tell me you don't want to hire a guy who's been out of coaching since 2017? I get that, but Tony La Russa was out of baseball for a decade before he came back to the White Sox. They won the AL Central. If you know baseball, you know baseball. John Farrell knows baseball. The second guy who I'd consider is Paul Molitor. Molitor put together 3 good seasons with the Twins and 1 really bad season. 2015, the Twins finished 4 games over 500 after finishing 22 games under 500 Ron Gardenhire's last year. The year after that, the Twins only won 59 games. They were absolutely atrocious. Their pitching was dreadful. That was a really bad team. 2017, they rebounded to make the AL wildcard game, only to lose to the Yankees. And then 2018, the Twins went 78 and 84. Not terrible considering the talent that the Twins had. I mean, I like Molitor. He's very well respected. The thing that I'm not crazy about is he's 65 years old. How much longer does he really have? If you hire him, you're only going to get him for, 5 years if you're lucky? And also, in 4 years, you don't win a playoff game? I mean, I think Molitor does a good job in maximizing the talent that he has. But he's a distant second to John Farrell. But I'm putting him ahead of Lombard and Kotze. I want an experienced manager. You think about the great managers in Yankees history. I don't know if you'd call Joe Girardi great, but he was a retread. Joe Torre was a retread. Billy Martin was a retread. I don't know if you'd call him great. But still, the point holds. Casey Stengel was a retread. Joe McCarthy was a retread. Miller Huggins was a retread. You sensing a theme? All throughout Yankees history, they've done better with retreads. It doesn't always work. Cough, cough, Johnny Keane. But for whatever reason, the Yankees just have more success with retreads than first-timers. I will say this, though. The optics of hiring a former Red Sox GM and a former Red Sox manager really doesn't look good. You can get away with 1. I don't know if you can get away with 2. Now, last year when I did my off-season preview, I went through the arbitration eligibles, the pending free agents, and a potential trade. I'm not going to do that here. And the reason is, I just have no idea what the value for some of these guys are. Like, here's another knock on Cashman. You could have traded Miguel Andujar earlier in his career and gotten a king's ransom. There were rumors that the Mets would have done Miguel Andujar for Jacob deGrom. Imagine Jacob deGrom on the Yankees. absolutely unreal. Clint Fraser, he could have traded last year. He chose to hang on to him. He's going to be our starting left fielder. Does nothing with the Yankees, then gets hurt. The Yankees have a lot of guys who it's impossible for me to compute their trade values. So instead of saying trade this guy or non-tender that guy, I'm just going to say get rid of him. If you need to non-tender him, okay. If you can find a suitable trade, even better. But I have no problem with non-tendering all 9 of these guys. Andujar, Fraser, Gallo, Domingo Germán, Chad Greene, Corey Kluber, who's a pending free agent, Anthony Rizzo, pending free agent, Gary Sanchez, and Gio Urshela. Andujar and Fraser, I just explained. Joey Gallo is kind of interesting. The Yankees traded for him knowing that he was gonna hit for a low average. He was either gonna walk, hit a home run, or strike out. That's what Gallo did. Like, Joey Gallo did what the Yankees wanted him to do. They wanted him to be a big lefty bat in the middle of that lineup. He hit 13 home runs in 58 games. Like, Joey Gallo did what the Yankees wanted him to do. The thing is, though, who he is just doesn't work. I'm sorry, but you can't hit 160 as a Yankee and lead the majors in strikeouts with 213 and strike out 88 times in 58 games as a Yankee and have me say, yeah, he should be back. I can't do it. Maybe if the Yankees had a bunch of guys who were going to hit for a high average but not hit a lot of home runs, I could understand the fit of Gallo. But on this Yankees team, with guys like Judge and Stanton, who both struck out over 150 times this year, Gallo just doesn't work. I mean, I'll say this in the interest of full transparency. When I first saw the Gallo trade, I didn't like it. I thought the Yankees would have given up a lot more than they ended up giving up. I didn't think they were a playoff threat. I didn't think he fit the team well. I was wrong about the haul being a lot, but I was right that he just didn't fit the Yankees. I was right that he wouldn't get them over the hump. I mean, even though the Yankees didn't give up any A prospects, I'd rather have those 4 guys and miss the playoffs than be without those 4 guys and be eliminated in the wild card game. The net result is the same. You didn't win a single playoff game. I mean, all the criticism from A-Rod was right. Joey Gallo just doesn't fit this Yankees team. I understand who he is. He did his thing. I can't begrudge him for that. But he just doesn't fit the Yankees. It's just that simple. Domingo Germán, there's really no room for. I understand the notion of you can never have too much pitching. But I think you can do without Germán. The theme for me this offseason is getting rid of dead weight. Getting rid of guys who really underperformed. Domingo Germán underperformed. He went 4-5 with a 4.58 ERA. He pitched less than 100 innings. You can get rid of him. I don't think he's ever going to win 18 games again. Would I be opposed to the Yankees holding on to Herman? The answer is no. But I think the Yankees can get rid of him. Chad Greene is just an unclutch pitcher. There are too many moments where he just blows games. He was the guy who was on the mound against the Red Sox when Alex Verdugo hit the 2 RBI single. He blew a game against the Mets last month. He blew a big game to the Athletics in August. He got shellacked by the Red Sox not long after that. I just think you can do better than Chad Greene. He just doesn't come up clutch in big moments. The Yankees needed him to, and he failed. Corey Kluber's a pending free agent. He only pitched in 16 games. I mean, Kluber did his thing when healthy. He pitched a no-hitter. Give him credit. I just think you can do better than him. Like I said, getting rid of the dead weight. Anthony Rizzo is interesting. I actually like Rizzo. I really like Rizzo. But here's the thing. He's a pending free agent at the age of 32. He's going to require a big commitment. Like $100 million. And not for nothing, I don't want to give that to a guy who with the Yankees only hit .249. He had a .340 on base percentage. He hit 8 home runs and 21 RBIs. He's an excellent fielder. I get that. I wouldn't be opposed to bringing Rizzo back. But I'm willing to give Luke Voit another chance. I still believe in him. I believe that 2019 Voit and 2020 Voit is the real Voit. That's a gamble. There's no question. But worse comes to worse, I can just slide DJ LeMahieu over to first. And maybe a guy like Tyler Wade or Rougned Odor gets more playing time. Or maybe it's something that gets addressed at the deadline. Maybe Chris Gittins gets his act together. I'm okay with taking the chance. To me, it beats giving a 32-year-old a huge contract. The Gary Sanchez experiment is over. I've defended Sanchez for a long time. I can't do it anymore. The defense hasn't improved. The offense really hasn't either. It's just done. It was a good try. It was a good effort. I don't hate Sanchez like some Yankees fans do, but I do dislike him. You can do better than him. I think he'll land on his feet. I think he will get another starting job. Maybe even as a DH, because that's where he'd be best. But it's just not gonna work with the Yankees anymore. And Gio Urshela, I'll get to in a minute. Okay, just bear with me for a minute. I just wanted to go in order. There are 4 big free agents that I want the Yankees to sign. The first one of which, just to knock out Urshela, is Carlos Correa. I understand that we, as Yankees fans, despise Carlos Correa right now. Okay, obviously he's an Astro. Obviously, he was there in 2017. I mean, it wasn't just F. Altuve. It wasn't just F. Bregman. It was F. Correa also. But a couple things. Number one, in the past, Yankees fans have shown that when you leave a rival to come to their team, they will accept you. They accepted Johnny Damon. They accepted Roger Clemens. They accepted Darryl Strawberry. They accepted Doc Gooden. They accepted David Cone. Once you see the light, Yankees fans usually forgive you. It may take some Yankees fans longer than other Yankees fans. And you've got to wonder how Correa will deal with the Boo Birds. Like, if he gets off to a really slow start, or when he gets into a slump, he's going to hear the boos. He's going to be called a cheater. It's going to be May 4th all over again. I mean, that's something that Correa will need to evaluate. But if he decides that works for him, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone better than Correa. The best free agents available this offseason are shortstops. The old school Yankees philosophy that worked in the 08-09 offseason was, once we miss the playoffs, we will sign the best free agents available. Carlos Correa, in my opinion, is the best free agent available. I like him more than Corey Seager because Seager has a pretty long injury history. I understand that Seager's a lefty. Okay, I like Seager. Great player when healthy. NLCS and World Series MVP. Would love him on the Yankees. But I would prefer Correa. Trevor Story, I think a lot of his success is due to the fact that he plays in Coors Field. Like, people say, hey, Gallo's going to rake now and Rizzo's going to rake now because they play at Yankee Stadium. Okay, but half those games are away from Yankee Stadium. You do know that, right? The Yankees don't play all of their games at Yankee Stadium. They play 162 games a year, 81 of which are at the stadium. The other 81 are somewhere else. So you've got to produce elsewhere. It's another reason why Gallo doesn't work. And I don't think Story works. And Marcus Semien is kind of a one-hit wonder. I like Semien. Had a great year this year, hit .265 with 45 homers and 102 RBIs. I'd just rather give a big contract to someone a little more established. Enter Correa, a guy who is basically guaranteed to hit 20 home runs and about 70 RBIs a year. You know he's going to hit about 280. Get on base at a good clip. Play a good shortstop. He shows up in the postseason. That's why I want to get rid of Urshela. Carlos Correa is a better player than Gio Urshela. And not for nothing, but do you really want Urshela playing short every day? Because you're never going to see Torres there again. I understand that Gio Urshela is a great fielder, but shortstop's not his natural position. I'm a little worried about how he'll do there. over a 162-game season. We saw how much better Torres was when he was at his natural second base. I just want a natural shortstop. LeMahieu, I'm fine with at third. I have no issue with that whatsoever. I feel like with LeMahieu investing all of his energy in learning how to play third and getting back to being the LeMahieu that hit over 320 in his first 2 years with the Yankees, he'll turn into a really good third baseman. Now, obviously, if you get rid of Sanchez, you've got to add a catcher. There are really only 3 good catchers available in free agency: Buster Posey, Christian Vasquez, and Yan Gomes. I don't know who's going to be on the trading block and who isn't. So I'll just focus on the free agents. One thing that's important to know about the Yankees is they love bringing in older catchers. Russell Martin, Brian McCann, Irod. In their history, that's something that they've really liked to do. Posey had a career renaissance this year with the Giants. He hit .304 with 18 home runs and 56 RBIs. Very consistent as far as catchers go in terms of games played. And not for nothing, but if you can get a catcher that's going to hit 300, you take that. Buster Posey may be a future Hall of Famer. We don't think of him that way, but he'll have an argument. 3-time World Series winner, 7-time All-Star, he has an MVP, he has a batting title. He'll get some votes, I'll say that. Posey does have a $22 million option that the Giants can pick up in advance of next season. But if they don't, I'd go after Posey hard. Christian Vasquez, I don't think the Yankees are going to get. I think he's going to stay with the Red Sox. He has a $7 million option for next year that I really think the Red Sox are going to pick up. I could see the Giants declining Posey's option, because that's a lot of money. $7 million for Vasquez really isn't. Last year he had .258 with 6 home runs and 49 RBIs. He's a solid catcher. He's dependable. Can play other positions. Won a ring in 2018. And if the Yankees bring in John Farrell, he may push hard for Vasquez. Realize, Farrell used to manage him. But again, I really think he's going to stay with the Red Sox. Yan Gomes may be a little underwhelming. I mean, it's hard to look at him and get really excited. But last year, he put together a good year. He had .252 with 14 home runs and 52 RBIs. He usually hits for solid power. He won a ring with the Nationals in 2019. I like that. Gomes is the kind of guy who you sign to a 1-year deal. And if it works, fantastic. If it doesn't, you didn't lose a ton. Now, if I'm saying that the Yankees should get rid of Joey Gallo, the Yankees are going to need a left fielder. The best outfielder available is Nick Castallanos. I want the Yankees to go after Castellanos hard. Here's a guy who had a monster season for the Reds. He hit .309 with 34 home runs and 100 RBIs. He made his first All-Star team. He's one of the most underrated players in baseball because he's had the misfortune of playing for bad Tigers, Cubs, and Reds teams. If he's a Yankee, everyone will know how great he is. Let me address a couple elephants in the room. Firstly, Castallanos, in order to become a free agent, would need to forego $34 million. He has an opt-out clause that he can trigger. If he doesn't opt out in 2022, he'll get 16 mil. The year after that, he'll get 16 mil. The year after that, he has a $20 million mutual option with a $2 million buyout. But I think Castellanos is in line for a big payday. Forget getting 30 mil over 3 years. He could get 30 mil per year. That's the kind of year he had. But there is another thing. I'm talking about putting guys at their natural positions. Nick Castellanos is not a natural left fielder. Castellanos has only played 20 games in left in his major league career. Now, he hasn't made an error. In 13 tries, give him credit. But it does come with some risk. I get that, but it's a risk I'm willing to take. For a guy like Castellanos, who picked up the outfield pretty easily, if you'll recall, he came up as a third baseman, had hands of stone, so the Tigers moved him to right field. He really thrived there. So for a guy who picked up right field as easily as he did, I think he'll be able to pick up left pretty easily. Now, I want the Yankees to add another starter. If the Yankees do nothing in terms of starting pitching, they just bring back the guys under team control. They have a rotation of Cole, Severino, Montgomery, Taillon, and Cortez. Do you have a problem with that? I really don't. The thing is, though, it can be better. Severino's no sure thing. We all know his injury history. Taillon wasn't great. You have no idea if this year from Cortez was an aberration or not. I think the Yankees can do better in their rotation. Adding another starter would just really boost the team. There is a starter available who is one of the best pitchers in baseball. And that's not an opinion, that's fact. He is a future Hall of Famer. He is a 3-time Cy Young winner, an 8-time All-Star, a former World Series winner, and he has something in common with Dan Aykroyd. It's Max Scherzer. I want Scherzer. Think about this rotation for a minute. Cole, Scherzer, Severino, Montgomery, and Taillon. You're not beating that. That's probably the best rotation in baseball. Cole and Scherzer, 2 of the best pitchers in baseball. Jordan Montgomery had a really good season. Luis Severino, if he's at 100%, is a really, really good pitcher. Jameson Taillon has talent. Nestor Cortez, waiting in the wings. It just doesn't get any better than that. Scherzer this year went 15-4 with a 2.46 ERA. He's insane. He's a future Hall of Famer. You could sign him to a 3-year deal, and it would make sense. Also, I'll say this. It would be kind of nice for the Yankees to have another Hall of Famer on their ledger. I understand that the Yankees don't need it. They have a ton of Hall of Famers, but adding another one couldn't hurt. He'd get people excited. You know how every Gerrit Cole start is a must-watch? Max Scherzer has been in the National League since 2015. If you're a Yankees fan, you really haven't seen him a lot since then. So every start from him would be must-watch. Wow. I'm watching a future Hall of Famer pitch. That's unreal. I think there is something to that. I want Scherzer. Just to go through the roster, the rotation is Cole, Scherzer, Monty, Sevy, and Taillon. The bullpen is Chapman, who I wouldn't mind getting rid of, saving a little bit of money, and giving the closer role to Loaisiga. But I just don't see anyone taking that contract. I'm fine with Chapman. I'm okay with him. So it's Chapman, Loaisiga, Litke, Abreu, who I like. He really only had 2 bad outings this year. That artificially inflated his ERA. He's a good pitcher. Holmes, King, Peralta, and Rodriguez. The starters behind the plate, in order, either Buster Posey, Christian Vasquez, or Yan Gomes. Luke Voit at first, unless the new hierarchy doesn't like Voit, in which case bring back Rizzo. I'm fine with that. But I'm okay with giving Voit another chance. I'll pencil him in. Torres at second. Correa at short. LeMahieu at third. Castallanos in left. Hicks in center, unfortunately. And Judge in right. Stanton, obviously, at DH. If you can move on from Aaron Hicks, that would be fantastic. I hate Hicks. Now that Andrew Heaney's off the team, there is no Yankee who I hate more than Aaron Hicks. Knew that extension wouldn't work. Another big move that Cashman made that backfired. It was so predictable that he'd get hurt again and again and again. But no, we like Hicks because he draws a lot of pitches. He walks a lot. He gets on base. Hicks is useless. But unfortunately, I have to pencil him in at center field because he's signed to that big contract. On the bench, I'm okay with bringing Brett Gardner back. He turned it on second half. Let him finish his career with the Yankees. He plays the game the right way. Longest tenured Yankee, the only link to the 09 team. I like Gardner. Higashioka as the backup catcher. Good defensive catcher. Rougned Odor. You're kind of stuck with him. He does come through in the clutch, though. I'll say that. Good lefty bat off the bench. I'm fine with him. And Tyler Wade, who really turned it on this year. Wade may be hitting his full potential. And worst comes to worst, if his bat regresses, you've got a really good pinch runner on your hands. Regular episodes of the Jacob Valk Show come your way every weekday afternoon. Until next time, I'm Jacob Valk, and always remember, if you disagree with me, you're wrong.